Greetings everyone, my name is Chris Clark. This is my Western Governors University video presentation. Today, I would like to talk to you about the benefits of converting from brand name drugs to generics. Today's society has prescribed a vast array of drugs, many of which can break an individual's budget. I would like to share with you how drug costs on a daily basis can fall drastically if patients are informed of the benefits of converting their currently brand name prescribed drugs to their generic equivalents. Today, 80% of brand drugs have a generic equivalent. The main benefit is a cost reduction of up to 52%. Many consumers are aware that generic products in general can save money. However, with many non-prescription products available for purchase, such as items in a grocery store or Walmart products, they have varying degrees of quality. However, prescriptions fall under a different set of guidelines. With prescriptions, consumers may not be aware that their current medication may have an FDA-approved bioequivalent. This essentially means that both medications have the same benefits and risks in its active ingredient and are chemically identical. People often wonder if the generic drug is equal to that of the more popular drug, given the fact they cost so much less. First, the FDA determines all drug production guidelines and approves all facilities for making both brand and generic drugs. These guidelines ensure that each drug meets the same manufacturing standards of quality, purity, strength, and stability before going on the market. Each drug is tested, sampled. This assures the consumer that these drugs are equal. Labeling and testing standards of both brand and generic drugs are the same. Now that we've established that the drugs are equal, let's talk about cost. My chart illustrates the three most common ailments: asthma, hypertension, and congestive heart failure. Just to choose three of the many disease processes that exist in our world. You'll notice that to the right of each one, there's the brand and generic drug. Here we have asthma with Ventolin, which I personally took years ago, and then I discovered generic albuterol. It was prescribed one day by the doctor who said it'll save you on your co-payments, it'll save you on the cost if you're paying out of pocket. As you can see, with hypertension, congestive heart failure as well, the brand and generic are labeled, and in each one we have, for albuterol alone, is a 52% cost reduction, followed by hypertension drugs, lisinopril, which my own mother takes, is a 48% reduction. So, the research which was conducted by the FDA's National Prescription Audit illustrates how generic drugs can lower the consumer's budget, since approximately, as I mentioned before, 80% of all brand medications on the market have a generic equivalent. The research, development, and cost of bringing a brand drug to market can be in the excess of $1 billion. A generic drug is $1 to $2 million. They don't have to go through all the research. They just have to copy the drug. The fact that the consumer does not have to pay advertising costs of brand products, generic drugs continue to increase in appeal. Generic drugs can lower the cost of your out-of-pocket through low manufacturing expense, while they are equally in effectiveness of brand drugs via FDA standards. We have an opportunity today to educate the consumer on cost savings, which affects their budget, but in addition saves time by reassuring them that the manufacturing standards are rigorously monitored, as well as increased use of generics not only helps the effect on their wallets, but promotes increased production by generic companies by lowering the future cost of medications. So, generic drugs are a smart conversion. I thank you for your attention, and are there any questions?
How would I inquire about switching to a generic drug?
Ask your doctor and pharmacists, who are provided with FDA literature, on the bioequivalence of brand drugs versus generics. In most states, pharmacists are permitted to substitute the generic equivalent. Are there any other questions?
Are generic drugs as potent and safe as brand name drugs?
As I mentioned before, the FDA will not permit substandard production of drugs by generic or brand name manufacturers. This ensures it meets the minimum guidelines. Interestingly, brand manufacturers produce 50% of all generic drugs on the market. They make copies of their own drugs to sell, but without the brand name. Are there any other questions?
Will my insurance cover either generic or brand?
Most insurance companies prefer the lower cost of generic equivalents, often resulting in a lower copayment by consumers. Widespread use of generics not only saves the consumer costs, but saves the insurance company's coffers by keeping premiums low in the long run. I thank you for your time. My name is Chris Clark. Have a wonderful day.